Hey everyone, welcome back. So we got plenty of good news today for Bitcoin adoption. States are putting it on their strategic reserves. I mean, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. But here's what we got. Bitcoin's also gotten up to 98,000 today, which is good. So we will take a look at what's going on with Bitcoin miners. Arizona obviously passes SBR. Is Texas next? We'll also take a look at core Q1 results. Plus, we have more good news on top of all of that stuff. Then we'll get into Q&A as always. So let's get into it here, but we got to go through this as always. Not financial advice for tuning only. Do your own research. Full disclosure below that. Hit the like button and subscribe. Helps me out tremendously, especially hitting the like button. Doesn't cost you anything, but it definitely helps me out in the channel here. So I would appreciate it if you guys could do that. Let's take a look at what's going on here with Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin is up a little bit here on the new day. We were up a little bit on today as well. On what are we on? Wednesday right now? No, yeah, Wednesday. Gosh, time is flying by. So we're on Wednesday, and Bitcoin was up just a little bit here. It was up 0.23%. Bitcoin miners were kind of mixed today. We did finish out at 97,738, and then we got the news that Arizona passed the SBR. And sorry if you hear a bunch of water running. My kids are taking a bath right now and shower. So I do apologize for that. What do we got? Oh, Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin, obviously, we have the news from Arizona. It's passing the SBR bill there. We'll talk about it here in a second. That's kind of pumping Bitcoin here up a little bit here. It's up now about 1%. It's currently at 98,000, so it's back up to that. Could we get to 100,000 by the end of the week? Possibility there. We have a lot of good news here happening on Bitcoin and everything else. So, yeah, let's get into it here with the miners really quick, and we'll get into everything else because there's just a lot to cover. So Bitfarms was up just a little bit here today, 3.9%, along with BitDeer, which was good. BitDeer was up 3.94%. Cypher was actually down 0.66%. Cleanspark was down 0.74%. CORZ was actually down 1%. It was actually up a little bit in the day. Then it came back down. Hive was flat. Hot 8 was down just a little bit, 0.78%. IREN was up 1.08%. Mara was up 1.37%. Riot was down just 0.25%. And Wolf was down 2.24% on the day. MicroStrategy was actually up 1.78. MicroStrategy's got their, or Strategy, has their strategy days in Miami right now. Those are going on. I watched the keynote from Saylor. Actually pretty interesting, pretty good. If you guys haven't watched it, definitely watch it. Galaxy was up a little bit as well, 2.28% here. Others were kind of mixed. Semler was down a little bit, 0.12. GME was down 0.12 as well. Small miners were mixed as well. NE and DMG were the only ones that were in the green. Everybody else was either flat or in the red a little bit. And then the ETFs for Bitcoin miners were mixed as well. We had 3 that were in the green, 1 in the red. DAP was the only one in the red here on that one. So there's the markets in a nutshell, more or less, of what's going on here. But Bitcoin, yeah, I mean, I'm thinking at least 100,000 might be in reach for this week. We'll see on it. Bitcoin right now for the month of May is up 4.21% as of right now, which is good. If we get it up to 100,000, that'll be even better. Bitcoin ETF inflows continue to come in here. Yesterday we were actually negative though, even though BlackRock did buy a little bit, 36 million. But I mean, they've had a streak here of buying. Well, I don't know how far back this goes, but we've had a number of positive days of buying from BlackRock. It's just been continuous here. Some of the other ones have been kind of selling out, but BlackRock has been positive here for a long time. So that's a good sign there. All right, let's get into the news stories that we're not bullish enough on. One, this is actually pretty good news, maybe, depending on what this is, but breaking: Trump has said that the first trade deal will be coming tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time. So this is from Donald Trump. He wrote, "Big news conference tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. The Oval Office concerning a major trade deal with the representatives of a big and highly respected country, the first of many." When I was reading this, I was thinking back to when people were talking about the tariffs on the little country that has nobody living there except for the penguins. I was going to make a joke about it and say, you know, we're going to see penguins in the White House. Great deal there. All right, just a joke. But nonetheless, this is great news here. We need many, 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 many more of these to happen along the way here. But this is a good start. We'll see what the big country is here, and a highly respected country. We'll see what that country is tomorrow, and we'll see how the markets do, and Bitcoin along with it. But it could be a good pump for Bitcoin here going forward. So this is good news here. Matthew Siegel here is talking about the Arizona bill getting passed here. So days after vetoing SB 1025, which would have let Arizona invest public funds and seize crypto into Bitcoin, Governor Katie Hobbs signed HB 2749, a scaled-down version that funds BTC reserve using unclaimed crypto airdrops and staking rewards. Great achievement. And this was originally posted by Dennis Porter there with the Satoshi Action Fund. And this is what it had to say here. Let's see here. What HB 2749 delivers redirects unclaimed property profits to Bitcoin and top-tier digital assets. Harvests interest, airdrops, and staking rewards from abandoned property to fund strategic purchases. Ensures prudent diversification. Bitcoin augments, not overwhelms. Arizona's investment strategy. Mandates robust U.S. regulatory custody. A clear runway to activate the reserve and begin staking sats. Keeps native Bitcoin in digital form, enabling lost Bitcoin to be returned in BTC instead of dollars. So great news there, right? Champions who made it possible. Representative Jeff Wenninger, and then Coinbase provided expert testimony and critical momentum to propel the bill across the finish line. And then obviously Governor Katie Hobbs for signing the measure and making Arizona a leader in digital asset innovation. So we have New Hampshire, we got Arizona, could possibly Texas be next here? Well, Texas could be next. And this is again from Dennis Porter here. Huge Texas just passed strategic Bitcoin reserve out of the House committee, now headed for a final floor vote before going to the governor's desk. So could we see that in the next couple of days? We possibly could. We'll see when this gets done, but it is getting done possibly. So Texas will be number 3 spot here, getting SBR on the law, on the books, in the law. This is all great news, and like I said, this is going to propel Bitcoin, right? Tick-tock, Bitcoin's about to rock. We might have a nice little pump here on Bitcoin because of all this news that's coming out here. We have also some more good news here. Breaking here, this is from the Bitcoin historian. Breaking Ohio Governor candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, I can't pronounce his last name, I'm sorry. $2 billion Strive Capital to go public as Bitcoin treasury company. They are going to buy $1 billion to start. This is massive. This is just another company that's going to be going the way of strategy and accumulating Bitcoin in the long run. So what does that do? Well, that takes more Bitcoins off the exchanges, puts it into cold wallets or hardware wallets, and it's not going to be traded. So you're going to have a squeeze on Bitcoin as it is. We're seeing a squeeze already somewhat with the short supply of Bitcoin on OTCs, on exchanges. Everywhere else, it's going to lead to a pump. And it might be a bigger pump than we are all expecting here. And it might happen faster than we think also. But time will tell. There's other players in the market as well that would like to keep it suppressed, keep it down, maybe pump it up a little bit and bring it back down like we have seen here 2 times already in the last year, basically. We're kind of going through that process right now. But this is all good news here. I'm excited. I hope you guys are excited as well. This is the stuff that we're not really bullish enough on as we're seeing it here. But it's going to take a little time, but it's going to be all good. And then here we go. This is also from the Bitcoin historian here. Break-in 48 billion fintech giant Revolt to integrate the Bitcoin Lightning Network. They have over 50 million users. This is huge news, right? Adoption continuing here as time progresses. So great news again. Things we need to be bullish on. And a lot of you guys are not bullish enough, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And then finally, we have it here from Matt C. This is on a chart of Bitcoin here. He's saying clean breakout of BTC's descending weekly channel. Bitcoin setting up for another run at 6 digits. So basically another run for 100,000, maybe plus beyond that as well. And I tend to agree with that also. So things are looking good for us. We just need things to progress even more going forward. Okay, so there's all that. Let's take a look at what we have now on CORZ Scientific as well. And then we'll get into Q&A. So it actually might not be that bad. We're going through the stuff relatively quickly here, which is kind of nice. But Core here provided their quarterly results here. They were actually pretty good, but there was something because of it. So here are the details on the highlights. So they are on track to deliver 250 megawatts of billable capacity to CoreWeave by the end of this year and anticipate entering 2026 with annualized co-location revenue of approximately 360 million. So that's really, really good there. That's great that they're getting there. They're going to start getting some billable as well coming up by the end of this quarter here. The first tranche of 8 megawatts of billable capacity at Denton to be delivered to CoreWeave by the end of this month, and an additional approximately 40 megawatts by the end of this quarter. So it's going to start generating some revenue for them here. Let's see, they ended the quarter with a strong liquid position, including 778.6 million in cash and cash equivalents and digital assets, maintaining financial flexibility to execute on strategic organic and inorganic growth opportunities. So that's good there. They also, I don't know if they put it down here, but they stated in the conference call, at least I listened to part of it, that they have about a little less than like 1,200 Bitcoin on that they hodl right now. So we'll add that into their numbers. I don't know exact numbers for it, but they said around 1,200 as of last week or something like that. Can't remember exactly the date, but you guys can correct me on that one. And then here are the fiscal first quarter 2025 financial results here. Digital assets self-mining gross profit for the fiscal quarter of 2025 was 6 million. So it's pretty small. It's getting smaller and smaller as time goes on. The only thing we really need is Bitcoin to go up for them, and they need to replace some of the older machines there as well. So that represents about 9% gross margin compared to 68.4 million, or 46% gross margin for the same time period in the prior year, a decrease of 62.4 million. Why is that? Well, they've been decreasing their hash rate. They've been using older machines as well. That's the main reason for it. We had the halving event. We also had the network hash rate go up. Things that helped out was Bitcoin going up in value. Otherwise, it would have been even probably at a worse situation than they are right now. They even stated here, right? The decrease in digital assets self-mining gross profit was primarily driven by a 82.8 million decrease in self-mining revenue, the result of 75% decrease in Bitcoin mined due to the halving event, and the operational shift to co-location, partially offset by a 74% decrease or increase in the average price of Bitcoin and 33% increase in power costs decrease in power costs due to lower rates and usage. But majority of that is older machines. The hash rate has been increasing, difficulty has been increasing. You got the halving event as well on top of it. That all contributed to lower revenues and lower profit margins for them. So we really need Bitcoin to go up for them, and we really need them to also change out some of their older machines with the block miners that they're supposed to get in the second half of the year. Right? Hopefully sooner than later on that one. Other thing that I found was interesting here, net income for the fiscal quarter of 2025 was 580.7 million as compared to 210 million for the same period in the prior. Net income for the first quarter of 2025 increased by 370 million, driven primarily by a net 621.5 million mark-to-market adjustment on our warrants and other contingent value rights, comprising a 634.3 million decrease in the fair value of warrant liabilities, partially offset by 12.8 million increase in fair value of contingent value rights. Okay, that's a lot of information there in that space there. So the way I understand it is their revaluation of the warrants, things like that. That is what has driven this revaluation, and that's actually given them the positive EPS. If it wasn't for that, their EPS would be in the negative. And if you look at GAAP, they actually, I think, provide GAAP here down below as well. And we'll take a look at that. That would actually show that they had a loss here. These mark-to-market adjustments were driven by the decrease in our stock price during the fiscal first quarter of 2025. So that's the reason why. Okay. And then here, non-GAAP adjusted EBITDA for the fiscal first quarter 2025 was negative 6.1 million as compared to a non-GAAP adjusted EBITDA of 88 million for the same period in the prior year, right? So they had a nice benefit from those mark-to-market adjustments. Similarly to what we've seen with miners that have FASB and Bitcoin HODL, right? They can take advantage of that as well. But if you look at the non-GAAP EBITDA figures, things look a little bit different there for some of the miners as well. Okay, so there's that. And then let's take a look at the numbers that I do have for them, and we'll get through it all here. Let me zoom this in a little bit for you guys, make it a little bit bigger, make it a little easier. I have them right now at 363 million shares outstanding, and this is based off of here. I'm using the numbers here for the weighted average shares outstanding diluted, 363 million. That's the best number I could find for them. They did state up here, way up there. Sorry, I got to go all the way up. Up here, where was it? Where did I see it? Here it is. As of May 2nd, 297 share of common stock. So we're using the diluted, right? I think that's the one that we've been using for a while here. So we're going to keep with that one. But if you guys disagree with that, or I should be using a different number, let me know and the reason why, and I'll make an adjustment for it. But that's the number that I'm using there, just so full disclosure on that one. Okay, their current stock price is about $8.90. Market cap 3.2 billion here. Their performance over the last 12 weeks has not been great, and they do have a HODL of about 1,200. I'm going to put it down, I don't know, 1190 or something. They say close to that, so we'll leave it at that. Performance over the last 12 weeks has been great, down 30% from 12 weeks ago. 8 weeks they're down just a little bit here, 0.8. From 4 weeks ago, they're up 23%. From 1 week ago, they're up 5.17%. So it's been getting better here over the last couple of weeks at least. Their HODL value is about 16 million, not a heck of a lot. That's only 3.6% of their market value, and 32 cents of each share has a HODL in that amount there. Okay, we'll talk about their operations here when they report for April. We still don't have their numbers for that. Going down here, we'll look at the last 4 quarters also. Since we don't have the numbers for April, I don't have the information for April, May, and June, which would then include the quarterly estimates for them for Q2. So I'm using the actual numbers here, but that's going to change depending on where Bitcoin price goes in the next 2 months, I would say, and where they end up with their hash rate, network difficulty, all that stuff is going to impact it. I'm expecting, unless Bitcoin does a really, really nice job of going much higher to 120, 150,000 in the next 2 months, they're going to be probably lower on revenue, as we've kind of seen here, at least over the last, last quarter was lower. But until they actually change out their machines for newer ASIC miners, revenue might be sliding down unless Bitcoin really does pump nicely. But here's what we got for them. Revenue has been coming down. We had a nice little bump here in Q4. Why was that? Well, Bitcoin went up nicely, right, to 109,000. That's the main reason for it, as Bitcoin came down here in Q1. That's the reason why we're seeing less revenue here. On the last 4 quarters, operating cost minus depreciation came in at about 95 million here. Going down here, cost to mine 1 Bitcoin was at now 57,000 for them. This doesn't include, obviously, depreciation in there as well. This is just what they reported as cost to mine, or cost of operations there. Bitcoin mine quarterly has been coming down as well, as you can see that, and that's a result of not improving their hash rate or improving their efficiency with newer generation machines. They're still running in some older machines. We'll take a look at that down below here in a second. Debt to equity lower is better. This is obviously because of all the warrants. That's why it's negative. Current ratio is higher, is better. They're at 4.26, still really good. Still got plenty of cash for current expenditures. And then total current assets actually came down to 833 million from 903. And then total current liabilities went up a little bit here to 195 million. So not too bad there. Still really good shape financially when we look at things. Now, when we look at the machines here that they have here, right, they have a bunch of these older 100 terahash machines, some 102 terahash machines, and then even some 140 terahash machines. But they have a lot of these. This accounts for a large portion of what they have here. This is about 108,000 of these older generation machines, which accounts for approximately, what does that account for? A little bit more than half of their exahash right now, right? They're at 18 exahash, and this accounts for about 11, so definitely a larger portion of that. And right now, based on at least March numbers, they're making like $4.72, something like that, on the machines, not including any electrical costs on it, which could be around $2 something, if not a little bit higher than that. I'm just guesstimating here, okay? Going down here to the actual figures for them, we'll look at some of these things here in a second here, but current assets, we talked about that, 833 million. Nothing really jumps out to me on this one. Total assets about 1.6 billion, so that is an increase from the 1.59 that they had here, a little bit about, what is that, 27 million or so. Liabilities as well increased here. Big increase on that one was from the deferred revenue. 60 million here looks like from the 18. That's the biggest one, along with the accrued expense. That one went up as well for the year. Yeah, so that definitely went up. What else we here? Total liabilities and not subject to compromise, 1.8 billion compared to the 2.4 billion. So that is down. Big decrease here was probably the warrant liabilities. Yeah, that came down to 421 million instead of the 1 billion that they had here on that one. And then total stockholder equity was at 1.625 compared to 1.598. So that is a nice small increase, but still an increase there. Revenues. Okay, here's what we have. Hosting revenue has continued to come down. They're at 3.7 million in revenue here. Prior quarter they had 6.5, and that has been coming down each quarter, as you can see here. Digital asset mining, so this is their own self-mining here, 67.179 million. That is down from the 79 million that they had prior quarter, and then 110 million the quarter prior to that, or actually 68 and then 110. So that's been coming down, which isn't good. And then when we look at their actual costs here, this is where things get kind of scary, right? So cost of digital asset mining was 61 million, right? They generated 67 million. So you have about 6 million in profit there on it. It's almost to a point where you might be looking to maybe curtail more than anything else. I mean, you're making 6 million, you're making something at least on it, but it's not what we're seeing with some of the other miners are making on their Bitcoin mining at least. Okay, HPC has been kind of up and down here a little bit. Their business hosting revenue, 8.1 million here. They had 7.7 the prior quarter. Prior to that, they were at 9, so that is kind of up and down a little bit. Would have loved to see that actually go up a little bit more here. And then gross profit was 8.2 million here, so pretty small margins there right now as it is. Looking at everything else here, what do they have here as far as expenses? Nothing really. General administrative did go up a little bit here to 40, right? They did explain that a little bit more why that was. I'm not going to get into it here. And then change in fair value, right? 621 negative for it, and contingent value rights on warrants on that. So total operating Income expenses net was 580 million, almost 581 actually. They give him EPS of $1.44 and $1.25 diluted there. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And if we minus depreciation comprehensive income, we're looking at about $1.60 here. But if you take out, obviously, the mark-to-market revaluation, things would be much, much worse for them at that point on the numbers. Okay, so overall, they're doing all the right things. They're going in the right path. They're progressing with the build-outs for CoreWeave. They're going to start generating some revenue from that happening here by the end of the quarter, which is good. That should help out. And then as they get closer to the end of the year, they should be energizing those other sites to get the 250 megawatts or something like that completed for them and generating revenue for it. Yeah, 250 megawatts available capacity to CoreWeave. So that'll be good there. Let's take a look at the presentation really quick as well. Let's see if we can zoom this in a little bit more for you guys, just a bit, and see if there's anything else. I looked through this earlier. There wasn't anything that I don't think is unknown or new that we haven't heard of about. The presentation is much better than they had in the past, at least. They got a timeline here, evolution of the next generation data centers platforms, right? How they're building those out, expanding our portfolio, power digital infrastructure, all of their sites that they're working on, right? Which is CoreWeave. CoreWeave, a lot of it is CoreWeave. CoreWeave co-location under development there in Grand Forks. CoreWeave, that's all allocated for CoreWeave there. Co-location under development in Auburn, Texas as well. And let's see, pathway to 1.3 gigawatts of billable power capacity. Strategic M&As, they're looking for those as well. On track to deliver 250 megawatts by the end of the year. So that's good there. And total of 590 megawatts by early 2027. So early, what do they mean by early? Is it going to be the first quarter or the second quarter? I'm guessing at least it'll be sometime in that time frame there. Let's see, CoreWeave transaction history, client pays for CapEx, power and utilities. Closer look at CoreWeave co-location contracts. You guys can take a look at that. I'm not going to go into all of that stuff. Mid-December 24 began conversion from Bitcoin mining. This is definitely interesting to take a look at how they're doing that. They're kind of, taking out all the walls here, or where the machines used to be, getting things all set up, running piping and everything else. Definitely a lot of work that had to be done there. Diversified business portfolio. You guys can take a look at that. I don't think there's anything else. Appendix. Yeah. You guys can take a look at all that stuff. Overall, good things. Good things to go forward with Core and CoreWeave here in the future. But like I said before, would definitely love to see them actually get some more newer ASIC miners, replace some of these older machines that they have here. Especially these 100 terahash. If they could get those replaced, they would be in a much, much better place when it comes to Bitcoin mining, especially as Bitcoin possibly goes up much higher to 150,000, 200,000, whatever it might be. So that's why I'm saying the sooner they can get that done, the better. They would actually generate more revenue on that on top of it as well. And they could possibly grow their HODL even more if they wanted to at that point, right? They're only around 1,200 Bitcoin right now, but with having better machines, you can definitely HODL a little bit better there as well. So based on the current numbers that we have here, this is just on Bitcoin mining side of the things here for the last 3 quarters and the current quarter that we just finished, which is now still the same numbers. I'm guessing it's going to be somewhere around there, around 67, maybe 62 million, depending where Bitcoin goes. Could be even higher to like 75 million or something like that, depending where Bitcoin goes this quarter. So I have them between 583 and 874 right now. They're at 890. They look kind of fairly valued on that. But when you look at the prospects for the future here for them going to the next 12 months, right, things look a little bit differently at that point. And at that point, I'm between 1037 and 1555. And that's based on roughly having about $250 to $300 million in revenue from the HPCI business plus their Bitcoin mining business, which right now isn't much. And their margins are actually pretty bad. I have them at 50% and 75. Probably should lower that for them. Probably should look at that being possibly, I don't know, more like, let's see here, this is 50%, more like 10% or something like that for it, unless, so that would even make it worse for them. They'd be kind of overvalued right now. But the big thing for them is going to be the revenue from CoreWeave. When that starts flowing in, that's going to be huge for them going into next year. That's going to help them out nicely. And then if they can also improve their ASICs fleet, get those updated, upgraded, and hashing, they will be in a much better place. All right. That is just my two cents or my 2 sats, however you want to take it. And I'll leave it at that. Spreadsheet is going to be available to Patreon members. I did update you guys this morning from the stuff that we had yesterday, which was Cypher, Cleanspark, IREN reporting right, and then whatever else was in there. I did update the Patreon members this morning. I'll get this updated to you guys tomorrow as well. And then if you want to join the membership there, you also get access to a private Discord server there, and it's like $8 a month. You might be able to find a couple spots that are still $5 and $4 a month, and that is my sales pitch. That is it. That's it. Let's get into Q&A here. We're doing actually pretty good on time. We're only in, is it true? 25 minutes. Wow, okay. So we are doing much better than I thought we were going to do. I guess I've been speaking rather fast the last 20 minutes or so. All right, that's it. Let's get into Q&A. As always, if you guys could preface the questions with a question mark or a Q, I would appreciate it. I'm going to scroll up as always, find some questions, comments. We'll talk about it, work my way down as always, and we'll call it a day. Okay, so let's see here. What do we got going on here? Okay, BD2's got a question here. Seb, do you think the miner run-up you expect is more of a short squeeze or due to the miners becoming profitable and thus getting market multiple? Both. I think it's going to be a combination of a short squeeze on some of these guys that are highly shorted right now, Cleanspark, Mawson, others as well. I think as Bitcoin runs up to 150,000, at least I would think that the shorts would start to cover. I could be wrong. They could double down on it. We'll have to wait and see. So I think it's that, and them just becoming much more profitable as Bitcoin goes up. Much faster than the network hash rate and difficulty. So as that happens, the profitability goes way up here. Plus some of the ones that are still installing machines, getting to 50 exahash and beyond, that's going to bode well for those. All right. Jordan K says BTC is almost 100,000 while miners have hovered around lows. Yeah, they have gotten definitely beaten down much more than Bitcoin has. A lot of people have capitulated. I think we've had a lot of I wouldn't say, maybe traders. I think it's just retail. Retail capitulated on the miners, where we're seeing actually institutions continuing to buy in more and more. Well, I wouldn't say more and more. We'll look at the data when we have all the data for the miners being reported for April numbers. But we're still seeing a huge amount of inflows for some of these miners, at least, happening here. So do they know something that we don't know? Possibly. Or they're just a longer time frame investor than retailers. Retailers trying to get a quick buck, and it didn't work out for them, so they capitulated, or they got in at a much higher price. They couldn't stomach the drawdowns and weren't able to dollar cost average in. That's also a possibility there. But yeah, the miners have definitely gotten beaten down here again. So that's why I'm thinking, just based on their values right now where they are, it's ridiculous. Some of these guys like Mara their market cap is just value of their Bitcoin HODL, and sometimes that's even lower than their HODL value is. It does not make any sense. So eventually I think they will catch a nice big going up here. All right. Let's see, CORZ is running after their report. Are they running in the after hours? I know they were up like 4% after hours or something like that. B82 says 100,000 tomorrow. Well, that would be nice. Wow. Yeah, we're up 98, almost 99,000 here. We're having a nice little run here. So it'd be awesome to see 100,000 during the stream here. Maybe in the next couple of minutes. You never know. Bitcoin, when it wants to run, it runs. All right. Let's see. Chuck Gayer has a question here. Mara had a hash rate of 65 on Mara Pro today and 90 yesterday. How would that be possible? Okay, so it's not possible. It's just that is a calculation of how many blocks they won in a 24-hour period, basically. And then that's estimated based on the network hash rate of what their hash rate possibly could be. But there are fluctuations in it. Also, luck plays into it as well. So I do not like to go by that. I know some people that post about it when they get to those highs, but that's not actually the case. It's just an estimation of where they are possibly within a 24-hour range, right? Based on the number of blocks that they win. So if they win a couple blocks extra, well, that's going to look like they have 90 exahash running, which is not the case. Okay, so I wouldn't go by that. I would go by what they report at the end of the month, each month, and then go by that more so than the estimation there. All right, Yellow Gambler's got a question. I have heard MicroStrategy specific model and financial engineering is difficult to replicate for other companies. Do you agree or disagree? I don't. MicroStrategy was the first one out of the gates to do this back in 2020, right? They started out with 250 million, and they got, I think my Sailor said that they got 25 billion in additional cash that they could then throw into more Bitcoin here. I don't know if it's. I think it's still replicable. Other companies can do this, and we're seeing it from Semler. We're seeing it from others as well. But MicroStrategy has the lead there, man. They got the biggest HODL stack right now as it is. over 550,000 Bitcoin right now, and that money is just flowing into them because of that, and it will flow into the other ones as well. But it's just going to be maybe a little bit slower time frame. But we're seeing them stocks that do that do get a nice pump on it as well, which then helps them to buy more Bitcoin going forward, and it just kind of repeats itself over and over. And you can eventually maybe get to being close to what MicroStrategy has done. I don't know if you're going to be able to replicate it 100%, right? To get the scale that the MicroStrategy or Sailor strategy has been able to do. Okay, Kevin Humbert has a question here. Sebastian, if you had dry powder tomorrow, name the number 1 and number 2 miners in order that you would buy regardless of your current positions. Oh gosh, I gotta admit that Cypher is looking pretty tempting. I don't own any Cypher, but Cypher is looking pretty tempting here, based just on what I heard from the conference call and their report, right, about the possibilities of some AI deals, HPC AI deals. That looks tempting. But the other ones I would get into would be Cleanspark and IREN more. And then the third one would be probably more Mara, because Mara is just right now way undervalued. It's being valued just on their HODL right now. So those three, I think. But there's other ones that could be sleepers that do very, very well, outperform even those guys. But I'm just going by growth, future growth, operations, current operations, and potential of Bitcoin going up much higher. Their valuation of Bitcoin, how that they have also for some of these guys, and then for HPCI potential with the IREN. So that's kind of where I'm looking at. That's what I would be doing. But do your own due diligence. Other ones that could surprise us are, oh gosh, HUD 8 could surprise us. Hive, Bitfarms as well could surprise us. With any mentions of any kind of deals going forward. Who else am I drawing a blank? Core, obviously, I think with them upcoming and getting revenue later on in this year from CoreWeave could have a nice pump happening as well. If they change out some of their older machines for newer machines, that could also lead to a nice pump there, possibly. But that's kind of where I'd be looking at. B82 says 100,000 before this call ends tonight. Maybe. I mean, we're pumping kind of nicely here. Let's see if we can get to 99,000. If we get to 99,000, that'd be great. BTC miners are trash. I actually like the way, I didn't know you could do that you could have a actual, emoji as part of your name handle there. That's interesting. I kind of like that. The miners continued their decay against BTC while retail continues to subsidize their HODL and operations with no reward. All the miners are trash. Fair, I would say that's a fair categorization, possibly, right, based on what we've seen here. But could they still surprise us? I think so. I could be wrong on it, right? Let's see. Sarah Mellon Gimmin is crying here, or crying and laughing. I don't know if you're crying or crying and laughing. All right. Let's see. The Arizona bill is a lot like the federal one started via Trump's executive order. It's a step in the right direction, but it won't directly move the needle. New Hampshire's bill is the standard. Yes. New Hampshire's is basically they can allocate money to buy Bitcoin, right? Whereas Arizona's bill is they can use stranded Bitcoin or whatever they called it, lost Bitcoin and other assets, things like that they can then use for getting basically Bitcoin out of that. So it is different, but it is a step in this right direction. It's kind of like the U.S. executive order right now is for the government to get Bitcoin in how do they frame it? Non-costly ways to taxpayers, basically. So in neutral ways. So one of the ways I thought was maybe the gold Visa cards that Trump is offering for $5 million. Take $1 million of that and put it into Bitcoin, right? That's a non-costly way for taxpayers, basically. Let's see. Wes Clark here. Seb checked a couple of websites and they show CORZ market cap at $2.62 billion. Okay, maybe they haven't updated their numbers, or they're going by the numbers on the filing, right? Which I showed you guys, which was 297 million shares instead of the 363. So yeah, I mean, you guys let me know which one should I go with. I could go either way. Doesn't matter to me. One shows obviously more market cap, higher market cap with 363 million. The other one at 297 million shares outstanding is going to be definitely a lower market cap at that point. So I'm okay either way with whatever works best for you guys on that one. Let's see. Let's see. Looks like we likely won't get a rate cut in June, but I think BTC will keep trucking along. The blow off top will be Trump's trade deal with China. Yeah, if that happens and when that happens, that would be great. I don't know if we're going to get one in June unless things really change drastically in the economy, where the tariffs impact on China, and we're going to start seeing possibly, ships not coming into the ports of the United States from China anymore. You're going to have basically a lot of truckers maybe losing their job there, not having to move the containers around. You're going to see impact probably in rail. You're going to see impact in stores possibly as well. If that happens, and it happens within the next couple of weeks, maybe that would be enough to change their mind to possibly lower rates at that point. But yeah, we're probably looking at after that maybe, if that's not seen in the data yet. When does CoreWeave buy CORZ? Well, they tried buying them last year, if you recall, for what was it, 1 point some odd billion or 2 billion or something, whatever it was, market cap at that point, and yeah, it just didn't make any sense. I think if they offered more, they might have been able to do it, or if they tried to do a deal before they signed up with them for hosting, right, co-location or hosting, whatever you want to call it, they might have been able to get that if they offered a good deal, but I don't know, maybe they didn't play the cards right there. Let's see, KBW says Mara is going to tank after earnings. $9 stock dilution is coming. We know dilution is happening, right? Because they're hodling everything that they mine. They don't sell anything. So we know dilution is happening there. But $9 a stock, they would have to dilute quite a bit in order for it to go down to that and still maintain the $4 point some billion that they have in hodl alone. So I just don't see that happening just yet. Unless they dilute like crap done. Let's see, nerdy Alex here. Question: Have any idea on Cleanspark CPS tomorrow? Not sure if the new rules will be negative this time around. Yes, they will be. They should be negative for them. So if you're looking at the FSB rules, how that will apply into their APS, it will probably give them a negative. I'm more interested to see if they can actually squeak out a positive EPS without those, right? So can they do that if Bitcoin is going down and the revaluation happens in Bitcoin hodl, and that will bring them down to a negative EPS. But if you take that out, can they actually be positive at that point without that revaluation? That's the part that I'm looking for. They've stated there, at least they stated it back in February, I think it was February, January, that they should be EPS positive without the impact of FSB and Q1. So that's what I'm really interested in to see there. But yes, they will be negative EPS overall. Let's see, Sean is asking, have you heard of ARBKF Bitcoin ETF? I'm not sure about buying the Bitcoin ETF. That one, is that ARK? That's going to be ARK Invest, isn't it? I believe that's them. I have not. I don't deal with the ETFs too much. I do deal with ETFs for Bitcoin miners, the WGMI, and the other ones in there. I know a little bit about those, but yeah, I don't know. Star Melon, what, did we reach 99,000? Did I miss it? Let's see. Let's take a look at the chart here. What is that delayed here? Bitcoin, well, this one's still showing a high of 98,874. Right there, take a look at this. We're close to it. We might get to 99, and we're at 98,808. So unless you're looking at a different chart and a different trading platform, I'm looking at Coinbase here. But yeah, that's awesome to see. Miners, hopefully, fingers crossed here, they should do pretty good tomorrow. If we think things are going to go up much higher, miners should do good. But we'll see. We've seen it before where Bitcoin does go up and the miners actually go down because somebody's pushing that sell button on them for some reason. And it could be the miners themselves. All right, let's get back here. All right. Okay, so BTF inflows are now at an all-time high. Last time we were here, Bitcoin was at 110,000. This price discrepancy is because of loss of momentum in the markets and uncertainty. Yeah, I would agree with that. We've had Bitcoin did get it to 109,000, and then we had a correction for a number of months here. We've seen that last year as well. So this is not out of the ordinary for Bitcoin. It is a different cycle as far as timing is concerned and how fast Bitcoin is going up. And the corrections, the duration of those corrections, how long they're lasting is completely different than we've had in the prior cycles. But this is all still normal. Bitcoin didn't crash down more than 40%. We crashed 30% more or less. Miners crashed 60, 70% because of it. And now we need to pick things back up in the other direction. Okay. Okay. Wes Clark here answered Sean, which is great. Thank you for doing that. Okay. What do you think Trump's big news is? Crypto related? Maybe. No, they're talking about making a deal on tariffs with some great, wonderful country there. I don't know who that country is going to be, but we'll find out tomorrow. Heidi says, Seb, these miners are more frustrating than modern women. How do we cope? Oh gosh, I stay positive, right? That's the only thing I can do, and I look at the longer time frame of where things are going to go with Bitcoin. If it wasn't for that, and they weren't attached to Bitcoin or something like that, then I probably wouldn't be investing in them. But then we wouldn't be really talking about them either. So I just look at the longer time frame. The longer time frame is still good for me. I think it's still going to do very well. Bitcoin's going to go up much higher, and these guys should get repriced eventually. I don't know when that's going to happen, but it should happen. But then again, I could be completely wrong. I'm just a guy in, an unfinished basement talking to you guys. Let's see, what else? So was CORZ a beat or a miss versus analyst estimates, top and bottom? Can you show us that information, please? Let me see if that is available on TradingView here. Let's take a look at CORZ here really quick. That number should be on there. Where's my screen? There it is. Okay, so here's the earnings release, and what do we get here? So reported $1.25, right? EPS estimate was a negative 11 cents. That would have been the case if it wasn't for that revaluation. And they reported revenue of $79.53 million. They were estimating $86 million, so that was a loss there, or negative surprise, I guess, at that point. So there's the numbers for you. Okay, I had to take a sip of my water a little bit. My throat's starting to get dry. Let's go back here. All right, let's see. YKY. Institutions have been accumulating shares and lending them to short for premiums. There are too many outstanding shares to trigger a short squeeze. Why will they short squeeze themselves? That could be the case also. But, I mean, if institutions are buying into them, they could be lending them out to short. But then they could also make a heck of a lot more money on them going up, right? The upside potential is much higher than the downside potential over short, especially with Bitcoin going up. That's the way I look at it, at least. Song W has a question. I wouldn't hold Cleanspark through earnings tomorrow. Do your own due diligence, but remember what I said. I'll bet my entire 10,000 amount position. Are you going to hold? Yeah, I'm holding. I've been holding I'm still in the green on them, so I'm holding. I've been holding for a long time. Not only them, but Bitfarms and IREN here as well. And I've been buying in as prices have come down. Haven't been able to buy in the last 6 weeks. You guys know the reason why. But I'd be buying if I could. So yeah, I'm going to hold. I'm waiting for much greener pastures going forward here. Omar says, question, doesn't it feel like we've seen this rise of the new investment product before our own eyes? I've been in this for 5 years now, excited to cash out someday and start another campaign, kind of done with BTC. Why would you be done with BTC? What if Bitcoin goes to a million? Well, if you have Bitcoin, right, that you're hodling or something like that, why not just hold on to it? I mean, you could trade it. I suck at trading it. I would have had more Bitcoin if it wasn't for that, so I actually lost on it. But I do have what I have right now, and I'm happy with what I have. I'm going to hold on to those coins until we get to 1 million. At that point, that's going to be, well, I'll probably not sell at that point either. Unless I really need it or I want to go retire early, which I don't plan on retiring anytime soon. I like being active, working, and everything else. But that's just my 2 cents, or my 2 sets. BD2 says, I'm holding Cleanspark and sold puts today at 8 for $1 credit. Nice. All right. What is your prediction on profit and EPS from R and Cleanspark? Last quarter, you predicted this, but I didn't see you predict this quarter. This quarter, did I have that done? Let me take a look. See if I got the FSB impact on the miners here for this quarter. Let me see. I'm looking at the latest numbers here. January HODL, February, March HODL. Oh yeah, I think I do have FSB impact on Bitcoin HODL. I think this is it. I don't have the EPS on here because the EPS is a little bit harder to figure out. But here it is. So here's the screen on the FSB impact on Bitcoin HODL. For the miners that do have a HODL position here, we're looking at Core. Well, IREN doesn't have anything, so it doesn't really matter. Core did have 1,200 Bitcoins. Bitfarms has a little bit. BitDeer, except for all that stuff, how much of an impact that is. Marathon's going to take a potentially pretty big hit here, about 514 million, right? Took about a 200 million. Cleanspark, about 128 million. So that is going to definitely impact their EPS for that, right? So there's the numbers for you right there. I don't have the EPS on these guys, but it will be in the negative for majority of these guys. IREN might be in the positive because they don't have a HODL position and they've got good operations and low cost to mine. So that one should be in the green on that one. Core came in obviously a positive, but yeah, that's what I got there. Let's go back to it here. Omar asks, is Cleanspark still diluting? No. They are now selling partially their Bitcoin mined each month to fund operations and their growth. So they're not diluting anytime soon here, at least not in the next, I would say, 9 months or so. I know they are selling BTC now. I hope they don't dilute. Yeah, they shouldn't be diluted. They stated that they don't plan to dilute this year pretty much. All right. Nalevo Cam asks, hey Seb, which is the most undervalued miner today? I mean, if we look at operations and everything else, we can look at the enterprise value on these guys here. Enterprise, there it is. Let's take a look at that. This is enterprise. This is as of today. Based on current hash rate, what their hash rate is, what they're generating in revenue. Hive is the number one that's most undervalued, followed by Bitfarms. Right, then you got IREN, Riot, Cleanspark, pretty close to each other, with Marathon being close to all those guys here. And then you got some that are looking kind of overvalued. If you look at future hash rate growth, well, Hive still is the most undervalued. They're being valued only 9 million per exahash. They're supposed to get to about 25 exahash later on by the end of third quarter. Bitfarms is being valued at 23, right? IREN at 29 million. Cleanspark at 32 million per exahash, where you got other ones, Core I can understand because of the revenue they're going to be generating from Core Weave. But BitDeer also way up there. Cypher even the same thing, right? But that one has a potential for HPC AI as well. So, and they're going to be growing their hash rate as well. But that still doesn't make any sense why some of these guys that have higher hash rate generating more revenue right now are getting lower valued. Just to me, it doesn't make any sense. So that's kind of the way I would look at that. You can also look at the stock performance of these guys here on different time frames and see which ones have been beaten down the most. And you can see here from the beginning of third quarter or fourth quarter last year, Bitfarms is down 48%, Hive is down 41%. Those guys have been beaten down like crazy here. If you look at it from the beginning of this year, well, you got BitDeer down quite a bit, Hive obviously being down quite a bit as well, Hut 8, right? So those guys have been beaten down quite tremendously here. But that's just the way. Some things you gotta look at a bunch of things. You can't just look at one thing on these guys, I think. But even at that point, with Hive being like the most undervalued here, what are the reasons for it potentially? One is their cost to mine is actually pretty high right now. They need to increase their hash rate to bring down their general administrative costs down. As a result of that, that should help them be lower cost to mine basically per Bitcoin. Increase their hash rate, right? They're also not, I think they're US based now, at least for reporting purposes, but before they weren't. And they're mostly, well, they don't have any operations in the United States either. So maybe that's a negative on them, right? So you have to look at those things as well. All right, let's go back to here. Where's Bitcoin? 98,000. So come on, 99,000. Okay, B2 says FSB is irrelevant given current BTC price since the negative was a point in time past and now it is a positive more than offset. Yeah, I mean, right now Bitcoin is higher than where it was at the end of, well, at the end of Q1, but also at the beginning of, I think, of Q1 as well. Kite says if you want BTC ETF, just buy IBIT. I would, yeah, that's a big one there. Let's see, Gary says CORZ was just under 133,000 cost per coin for Q1 if you include, yes, SG&A, right, all of that stuff into it as well. They need to replace old miners to become more competitive if they decide not to leave the mining at all together. Yep, I've been saying that the whole time. Completely agree with you there. Let's see, Toby1 says trade deal with UK, so you think it's going to be with the UK? Okay, maybe. What if it's with Canada or Mexico? we could see one of those. They've been dealing there for quite a while. Trump said his big news was not tariff related. Really? Let's see. Where did it go? Where did I put that? It's a trade deal. So let's see. Where's it at? Over here. Major trade deal with representatives of a big and highly respected country. The first of many. So trade deal, wouldn't that be tariff related too? I don't know. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it's rare earth metals or something like that. I don't know. We'll find out tomorrow. We'll see what it is. But it'd be nice if it was something related to tariffs. That would definitely help the markets along with Bitcoin as well. It's a question here. Outside of Bitcoin price going up, what would be a catalyst for the miners, if anything? Bitcoin price going up is the only catalyst. I mean, you're going to have network hash rate continue to rise for them, so that's going to be a downward pressure on their revenues, right? So we need Bitcoin to go up higher and faster than network hash rate does in order to offset those losses and improve margins. So we need Bitcoin to go up. I don't think there's going to be any other catalyst other than the Trump administration putting out some kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say a gift, but some kind of, what am I looking for? You guys know what I'm talking about. A way for them to pay maybe less taxes or something like that. Some kind of incentive is what I was looking for. But yeah, I don't know. Song W says, so nobody has a crystal ball, but do you really think they will have a good earnings based on the most recent quarter they are reporting? You actually think the stock will pump tomorrow after earnings? Who do we have reporting tomorrow? We got Cleanspark, or we got Hut 8 reporting tomorrow, and Cleanspark as well. And Mara as well. Jeez, we got 3 tomorrow. So it's going to be a busy show tomorrow. Bitfarms is on the 14th, along with IREN, and then we got BitTBT on the 15th. So we got quite a few things to talk about. Cleanspark, I think as long as they can provide positive EPS without the FSB impact being on it, right? We know with FSB it's going to be down, but without that, did they actually post a positive EPS? Without that, right? If they can do that, I think that would be a good sign. And then, yeah, I mean, we just need to see what their costs are still. Are their costs really good? Have they been able to lower costs on anything? That will be a good sign. But that's kind of things I'd be looking for at least with them. With Mara, it'd be the same thing. Have they lowered costs? Have they improved their margins on Bitcoin profitability there? With all the stuff that they're doing, right? Does that help things? And where do they see things going forward? Any kind of guidance going forward as well would be nice to see. And then Hut 8 also, how are they progressing with their HPCI business that they're targeting? Can they name a suitor for that Louisiana site that they're looking to build out? Right. Although any of those things would be great news, but we shall see. But I'm expecting Mara to be a negative EPS with FSB. I don't think they're going to be a positive EPS without the FSB for a little while longer. Hut 8 is questionable to me. That one's, I mean, they've changed around their segments of businesses. It's hard to track. Let's go back here. All right. William's got a question here. Hi, Sebastian. What's your take into sell in May and go away? Yeah, I mean, historically, that's been kind of the saying there, right? Sell in May because why would you sell in May? Well, vacation time, people start traveling, vacations with their families and things like that. Kids are off from school at that point. People are less, or investors are at least less mindful of what's going on in the markets. So typically that would possibly work, but with Bitcoin getting all this adoption and everything else, could it still continue to go up? I think so. So I don't know. I mean, you gotta do what's right for you. I'm gonna be in the market, and we'll see. Love Guru has a question here. Could the India-Pakistan war, could that affect BTC price? I don't think so. Not unless they start lobbing nukes across each other. That might be good for anybody at that point, but I don't think so. I just don't see that being an impact. We saw a little bit of an impact when Russia invaded Ukraine, but that was, a couple of days and we were back up to going higher. So I don't think that's going to be an impact. At least I don't think it will. Omar, you're very welcome as always. BTBT, another question here. Can you identify any reason Hive not being US-based actually hurts their valuation? Maybe just US investors avoiding them. Well, you have a couple of things that go into it. So if you're a US-based investors or US-based company, you typically get more capital inflows. You can also be put on indexes like the Russell 2000 and others as well. Some mutual funds will not buy your shares of a company if you're not US based. So there's an impact of that as well. So those are some of the things that would be a negative impact. Let's see, IREN at $15, the BTC is 150,000. 150,000, and that'd be 50%. Yeah, that'd be almost a double for him. I think it's possible, right? The Bitcoin goes up roughly 50%. A double of that would be 2x for IREN. Yeah, I would see that being a possibility. Dynamite says another catalyst is an HPCI deal with hyperscaler. Yeah, that would be also something that could drive these guys here. But Cleanspark doesn't have any ambitions for that. Mara has kind of been on the fence on it. They said that they would entertain a deal if it was the right deal, but they're not. I don't think they're like pursuing it full steam. Okay. Someone's got a question here. So if you were actively trading Cleanspark, would you hold through earnings tomorrow? Again, if you were actively trading, thanks. Oh gosh, I don't know. If I was actively trading, I mean, some people like to sell, at least some traders like to sell before the earnings, and then if things pop, they'll buy at that point. I don't know. I'm not a trader, so it's really hard for me to tell you guys if I would or wouldn't do it. And the reason why I'm not a trader is because I would probably be a terrible trader. But yeah, that's why I kind of hold on to them, dollar cost average into them, because that kind of works for me at least. But yeah, I don't know. Not sure. All right. Now, will you be investing, this is from Kevin, will you be investing in miners next cycle after experiencing this one? Well, this is my second cycle with the miners as it is. I was in the one in 2021 with the miners. I got into Hive at 2017, 2018, and rode that one down and rode it back up. So this is my second cycle with the miners. This is a much, much different cycle. So I'm thinking that we may not have another, like a repeat of the prior cycles, meaning that we have a blow off top relatively quickly after the halving event, usually about a year to 14, maybe 15 months after the halving event. And instead, what we're going to have is this continuation of going up, then coming back down 20, 30%, correcting from that, and then going back up. So we may not see that typical drawdown that we've seen in Bitcoin in prior cycles where it went down 80, 85%, and the miners went down 90, 95%. That's kind of the way my head is thinking, at least right now. We will see by the end of this year if that is the case, and early into next year if that is the case, if we have a different cycle altogether, which I think we do. And then if that is the case, could the miners, depending on how they do, and if they can get to scale, they might be in a better position where they can possibly go up for a longer period of time, depending on obviously Bitcoin here. But that's yet to be seen here, and that is an unknown. So the goal here is to make as much money as I can in this cycle, possibly getting with Bitcoin to 150,000, 200,000, wherever it's going to be. Trying to get close to the top as best as possible, make some cash on it, pay off some debt that I have, and reinvest that again into something else. And maybe even the miners then. But we'll have to wait and see. We still have a long ways to go. We still have basically another, what do we got, 7-8 months to go before the end of the year here. A lot could change in that time frame. All right, Gary's got a question. Do you think the market cares about FSB? Isn't it already worked in when you look at HODL? You seemed more positive on value of FSB in Q4 than you do this Q1. I was, right? I gotta admit, I was more positive on it because, well, we knew Bitcoin was going to be higher. There was going to be a nice impact for the miners. So yeah, maybe that FSB isn't as much of an impact as we thought it was going to be. Traders are probably smarter than that. They're looking at the actual numbers without it as well. So it's always nice to get that little bump there. But yeah, maybe it doesn't play as much of a role as we thought it would. We'll see. Anything driving price action tonight? I think it is the Arizona approving their SBR, a different version of the SBR, but it is an SBR. That's the second state, and then we got Texas also getting close to it as well. So I think those are the things that are kind of moving Bitcoin price up. And then we got also Trump talking about having some kind of trade deals tomorrow. That might be another reason for it as well. Sarmelin says, if IREN's only $15 at 150,000, that would be a giant fail. That's on the low end, right? I'm saying that's going to be on the low end, only 2x of what Bitcoin does. Could it do much better than that? Yes. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see where these things go. 150,000 and their cost is what, 40,000? They're making $110,000 per Bitcoin in profit. That's huge. They should be valued much higher from where that would be. Someone's got another question here, but BTC price has not been favorable for the miners last quarter. As you know, mining is very expensive. So how could they not dump after earnings tomorrow? I think it's already priced in. For a lot of these guys that we're seeing that reported already, Core, Cypher, Riot as well, right? The stocks didn't do anything major. They were kind of up a little bit, maybe down a little bit, but we didn't see any major dumps on those guys here. So I think that most of this stuff is already priced in. Okay, NG's got a question. Do I have a chance with my 40,000 shares of Bitfarms at $1.30 average? Do you have a nice dollar average there? Yeah, hold on to it, be patient. If you can, dollar cost average in. If not, just hold on to it. I think in the next 6 to 7 to 8 months or something like that, it should be up higher from that. I don't know exactly where it's going to be, but it should be higher. With Bitcoin going up, if Bitcoin goes to 200,000, it should definitely be like $2 something at the very least. But it could be even higher than that. All right. Will the next cycle be worse for the miners? Maybe. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. If this is an extended cycle, I don't know if it's going to be that bad for them. They might mature, especially the ones that get to scale, right? Getting to scale would mean possibly getting to like 75 exahash and beyond, especially as network hash rate goes. And then being able to use the funds that they generate to, fund operations and growth going forward, meaning less dilution. Adding some Bitcoin to their HODL as well, if they could do those things, then they might actually do pretty well. But it is unknown. There's too many unknowns here. Bitcoin price, where's it going to be? Will Bitcoin crash again to 80, 85, 80, 90%, whatever it is, like it typically does in these cycles? If it doesn't do that, that might be a good thing, right? We might not have that pullback. But yeah, there's just too many unknowns. I don't know. We'll have to wait. Okay. I'm at 15. That is far from $70. Yeah, it is far from $70. But I'm saying that's minimum, right? Minimum of what I think it should do. Can it do much better than that? Yeah. I mean, Bitcoin goes up higher. They could definitely go up higher from that as well. They could get an HPCI deal and the stock goes crazy as well. We'll have to wait and see where things go. See, Morton says, I don't think anyone seriously thinks IREN is $15 at 150,000. Where would you think it would be? Lower or higher? I'm saying the bare minimum, it should be at least $15 at that point. That's at least my take, my thoughts on it. Could be wrong on it. Could be actually lower. You just never know with these guys. That's a joke. Okay. But I think we've cut up here. I got NG, one more coming in here for him. Okay. More Tim says higher here. Okay. Will Bitfarms have the same kind of run as Cleanspark and CORZ? We know that their growth is pretty much tapped out as it is right now for Bitcoin mining. They are working on HPCI potential with the sites that they purchased from Stronghold. Can they materialize something from that? That would be a good thing. That would be one catalyst that pumps them up higher. The other thing would be obviously Bitcoin price going up. Them generating better revenues and things like that. They do have a really good fleet right now, pretty efficient as well. So they're in a pretty good shape. I would have liked to have seen them grow some more, but they're pretty close to being, I think, fully in. I think they're going to be in like 21 exahash, 20 exahash by, a couple more months, I would think. So there's not much growth there. They're not planning to do any major upgrades or add additional miners in the end of this year and into next year. They're concentrating on the HPCI deal. So we'll have to wait and see how they do. But I would think Bitcoin going up, they would go up as well with it. All right, but that's it. Love Guru, thank you as well for coming in, and you're very welcome as always. B82, have a great evening. Also, everybody else. Let's see, there's probably a deal with India tomorrow morning, CJ says. That might be interesting, right? Apple's moving production to India as well. That'll be interesting to see. But yeah, again, thank you so much, everyone, for coming in. Greatly appreciate you all. Tomorrow's going to be packed. I mean, what do we got? We got 3 companies reporting. Tomorrow we have 3 companies. Hut 8, Cleanspark, Mara reporting. So it's going to be it's probably a long one. Not to mention, it might be a late one by the time I pull all the data in for those guys. All right, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Let's see. What else here? Song says, hey Seb, I know you round tripped 8 our last cycle, so I hope you take profits this time, bro. Good luck, my man. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, did a round trip last cycle with Hive. At that point, learned my lesson. Hopefully, I learned my lesson. I don't believe that we're out of the cycle yet with Bitcoin yet fully, so I do expect to take profits this time around. I am in the profits. I am in the green. I would have liked to have been more in the green than I am right now, but we'll get there eventually. But that's it. Love you all. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great night. And yeah, tomorrow should be a fun one. I'll see you then. Bye.